discuss about the SAP projects and what all are the different types of SAP projects which you're gonna uh, engage once you complete this SAP FICO module. Okay, so let's start and let me show you what all are the different projects in SAP. Okay, so let's start. So first of all, we have the implementation project, right? I'm going to discuss in details in the upcoming classes. But first of all, let's see an overview about what all are the different types of SAP projects. Okay, so first we have the implementation project, then we have the support project, then we have the rollout projects, then we have the enhancement or upgradation project, we can say, and later we have the testing projects. So basically these are the five main and the major types of projects which are there. First of all, let's start with SAP. So SAP basically is an ERP software, and SAP stands for systems, applications and products in data processing. Okay, so the first project we are going to talk about is the implementation project. Okay, so in implementation project, what it does and how it works, right? So projects in SAP, and first of all we are going to discuss about the implementation project. So what is implementation project? So let me give you an example of implementation project. So let's suppose I am a company. Let's suppose ABC Enterprises Private Limited. I am running an organization. I'm running a company named ABC Enterprises Private Limited. And in my company, currently I am using the ERP software which is Tally, or let's suppose I'm using Oracle, or let's suppose I'm using Microsoft Dynamics, or let's suppose I'm using any XYZ ERP software which is available in the market. Now my company is posting all its transaction in these ERP software, in any of these ERP software. Now I want to switch to the SAP software. So SAP is also an ERP software. Now I came to know that SAP is in huge demand and SAP is a very good product. Now what I'm deciding, and after the discussion of with the management, what we are planning is to switch from the existing ERP software to a new ERP software which is SAP, right? Now after discussion we finalized that okay, let's move on to the SAP software, and once the SAP software is installed, we will post all our business transactions in the SAP ERP software. Okay, so once it is decided by the management that okay fine, let's move on to the SAP ERP software, and once the SAP ERP software is installed, so we will be posting all our business transactions in SAP. Okay, so now the company has decided. Now what they would do, so they would not directly get in touch with the SAP. They would get in touch and they would get the SAP ERP software implemented or installed in their company with the help of the SAP partners. So SAP partners are basically those who provides SAP services, as in there are a number of companies available in the market who provide the SAP implementation or SAP support, or the complete SAP service they provides. So these are basically the SAP partners, right? So this company ABC Private Limited would get in touch with the SAP partner, and they would say, hey, I want to use SAP ERP software in my company. So please suggest what is the best solution, what is the best version which I can use in my current organization. So when the SAP started, it was started with a lower version. Let's suppose it started with R1, then R2, R3, then ECC. Also there were different versions. Then it moved on to the S4 HANA. In S4 HANA also there are different versions. S4 HANA on premises, S4 HANA on cloud. N number of versions were there since it started, and till today there are n number of versions were available in the SAP. right? So the company would get in touch with the SAP partners, and the SAP partners would recommend them. See, based on your company size, depending on your company's transactions, you can use this version. Okay. So currently, most of the companies are either using ECC or they are on S4HANA, which we're gonna discuss in our upcoming classes. So here we're gonna understand first what is the SAP software which the company is gonna install in their organization. So now the ABC enterprises, they would ask the SAP partner and they would tell them to please recommend us which version we should get installed for our company. Now the SAP partner, right, after seeing their organization's structure, they would recommend, okay, ABC Enterprises, this is the version which is most suitable for your organization, and accordingly they would suggest either you can go for ECC or either you can go for S for HANA. Okay, so the companies nowadays, they would either go for ECC or S for HANA. Okay, so once it is done, once they are agreed, they're okay, fine, we will install ECC. Let's suppose ABC Enterprises says, we are gonna install S for HANA. Once that's agreed, so a complete business blueprint is prepared by the SAP partners and they submit it to ABC Enterprises, that see, these are the licenses which you need to buy for your organization. These are the list of activities which we are going to perform in order to implement or install the SAP software for your organization. Okay, after submitting the business blueprint, once the ABC Enterprises is agreed, okay, fine, we are okay with your proposal, then they would implement the SAP for their organization. Then this is how the implementation project comes into picture. This is how the implementation project comes into the picture. And implementing partner, as in the SAP partners, they are going to implement, they are going to install the SAP software for their organization. So there is a end-to-end implementation project. What all activities needs to be performed in implementation project, I'm going to discuss in the upcoming classes. But here you just need to understand what is an implementation project. So implementation is project is simply moving from the existing ERP software to SAP software. Very simple. You just understand implementation project. What you need to do is to implement the SAP. You need to get the SAP installed for the organization, for ABC Enterprise or any XYZ. Let's suppose Tata, or let's suppose Reliance, let's suppose Adani, or any XYZ big companies. If they want to install the SAP for their organization, for their company, they have to first do go through the implementation, and for that they would need the consultants. Here, once you complete your SAP FICO module, you can be hired as an SAP FICO consultant. And as an SAP FICO consultant, you would give consulting on what all areas, what all activities needs to perform in order to implement the SAP for ABC Enterprises Private Limited. This is basically the role of an consultant. There are other consultants also involved for implementing project, but that is not our area. There are basis consultant, there are ABAP consultant, there are SD consultant, MM consultant, HR, PS, PP, and number of consultants would be there depending on the company's requirement, what all modules the company requires, what is the company's business, what is the company's requirement. Based on that, the SAP partners will suggest, okay, fine, we are going to implement the SAP for your organization, and you would need these many modules for your organization, and depending on the modules, the SAP consultants gets involved for that particular implementation project. So this was all about the implementation project. We will learn more and we'll get deep dive into the implementation projects. There are different methodologies which are being used to get the SAP implementation project gets successfully live. Okay, so there is a project preparation stage. From the project preparation stage to the go live, there are different phases through which an implementation project goes through. Okay, so we're gonna discuss that in our upcoming classes. So first of all, you need to just understand what is an implementation project. Okay, so basically, once the company has decided, okay, fine, we're gonna get this implemented. So normally it depends on the size of the company, how much time would it take. So normally it takes from 1 year to, let's suppose, 1.5 years or 2 years it can take to get the complete SAP setup for that organization. Okay, so that was about the implementation project. Let's move on to the support project. So what is a support project? So as the name itself suggests, support. So when we are talking about the support, it means that it needs help in the SAP system. Okay, so once the SAP is implemented, let's suppose it's implemented, it's installed uh, for the APC Enterprises Private Limited. Now they need support. Okay, so that software, let's suppose earlier the users who were using Tele, or let's suppose the users who were using any of these ERP softwares, they might not be knowing how to use SAP software, and they might end up with any errors. Let's suppose they might end up with errors while performing any transaction, right? They might end up with any technical problem or any such scenario wherein they're not able to post any of the transaction. In that case, this support comes into picture, and here in the support project, SAP consultants provide support to the users. Okay, so in the support project, it is basically a post implementation activity. The support project can be a temporary support or permanent support. Let's suppose if you get hired as in a support project. So let's suppose in an organization there are 10 users or 100 users. They are performing a transaction on a day-to-day basis, and if they come across any of the errors, they will report that error into their ticketing tool. So there is one more topic on the ticketing tool which I'm going to discuss in our upcoming classes, uh, which I'm going to discuss in details. But now you just understand that once the user is facing any challenge, or if they are coming across any error or any issue, they will report it in the ticketing tool, and from the ticketing tool you can see the list of errors which has been reported by the users, and you can fix them as per after diagnosing the complete problem, what is actually the problem the user is facing, and depending on that you can give them a solution why they are facing that problem, and you can fix it up. So either they can report it through a ticketing tool, or they can simply email you with the error in details so that you can fix it. So this was all about the support project basically. uh, there then let's move on to the rollout project. Okay, and before moving on to the rollout projects, let us understand how much time does it take for a support project. So support project basically depends on the company's requirement of for how long they want a support. So if you are an SAP consultant, so you can be a temporary support, or you can also be on a permanent support. So let's suppose a company hires you as an SAP consultant and they need this permanent support for their organization. So you can be in their role, and you can work there as a permanent employee for that organization, and you can provide support to that organization as a support consultant. Okay. So let's move on to the rollout project. So rollout project is basically, okay, so we are done with the support project. Okay, so let's move on to the rollout project. So rollout project is basically, okay, so rollout project. So rollout basically is a project in which, let's suppose I am a ABC Private Limited, and I have a subsidiary company wherein I want to implement SAP as well, right? So I have a company A, and I want to get SAP installed or implemented for company B, which is also a subsidiary of company A. So you can get that SAP installed or applied for that company as well, right? So you have the existing data in a company, in a set of company. You simply need to migrate the data for to another company as per that company's requirement, right? And or you can get a complete system SAP design for that company, right? So basically the idea of rollout project is to roll out from one company to another company, or let's suppose if a company is existing in one place to another place. Let's suppose my company is, I own a Coca-Cola company in Dubai, and I want that company now, okay, let's move on further to another country. Let's suppose I want to go to India, or I want to go to Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, any other country. I want to set up my business. So as per the legal requirement, as per the tax laws, as per the country, as per the currency, you need to get it implemented, get it roll out in that country as well. So this is basically a rollout project, right? So you just develop SAP system or the complete system to a new country as per the country's requirement, as per their tax laws, as per their currency, as per their country specifications, as per the legal requirements. You get a SAP rollout done for that particular company. So it depends on the size of the company. Again, it might take from 6 months to 1 year, depending on the size of the company. Okay, so let's move on to the next project, which is enhancement project or upgradation project. So upgradation, as the name itself suggests, we are upgrading something, we are enhancing something. So upgradation is nothing but to move from a lower version to a higher version. As suppose I, being a company, I'm using ECC in my current organization. Now I get to know that SAP has developed a new version. So my company would say, okay, so we have used ECC for let's suppose 1 or 2 years or 4 years. Now let's move on. Let's switch on to the later version which has SAP has developed. So we would again get in touch with SAP partners, and we would say, hi, we would need the SAP latest version which is developed by the SAP. So then in that case we would migrate all our existing data from the current version. Let's suppose we are on ECC, or let's suppose we are on ECC 6. So we will be moving from the ECC system to the S4 system. Okay, there are also other version in S4 HANA. Let's suppose there were other different version on SAP, maybe ECC 6 as well, right? Now you want to move on to S4 HANA on any of these versions, you can switch on to S4 HANA these versions, right? And accordingly you can upgrade your system from ECC to S4 HANA. Okay, and it depends again the size of the organization, that how much time does it take. It might take from 1 year to 1.5 years to get your get a company from ECC to S4 HANA system. Last and finally, the project which we have is the testing project. So testing project is basically once the implementation is done, once all the activities are performed, once all the custom and the standards T codes are being configured, so a consultant would test end-to-end transaction of a particular T code. T code, I would explain you in details what is a T code. T code is basically, when I'm saying T code, it I'm referring it to a transaction code. I would explain more in details about what is T code, what are all different types of T codes available in the SAP system, what is a transaction code. So we have a different session about T code and in details. What all T codes are used depends on the modules which are being used by the organization. So I would explain in details about the transaction code, right? And okay, so we were discussing about the testing project. So testing is basically to test the end-to-end transaction of any particular T code. Let's suppose configuration has been done, right? And once the configuration is performed, now the consultant needs to test this configuration, if that configuration is developed as per the business requirement or not. If we are performing that particular T code, if we are executing that particular T code, we are getting the exact results or not. So that is basically a testing project, right? So nowadays there are many organizations who hire the consultants to perform this testing for their organization. Let's suppose once the implementation is done, so post implementation they would need the consultants to perform the testing activities as well, so that they can move their data to the production system. And once it is moved in the production system, it the T codes runs smoothly. Okay, so this again depends on the company's size and the company's structure. It might take from 6 months to 1 year to go through a testing project, right? Again, based on the company's size, right? So this is basically a post configuration activity, and to check if all the transactions are executed successfully or not. So these were these were basically the different types of projects mostly, and commonly used projects in SAP. Okay, so in this session, in this class, we have discussed about the different types of projects in SAP, and the different types of projects are implementation project, support project, rollout project, enhancement or upgradation project, and testing project.